Hello everyone and welcome to another random bits and pieces segment from my brain, and today, it's a while, for we are playing some more Franchise Hockey Manager 6 as part of the Ottawa Senators. So first thing is, I really apologize for the quality of the sound in my last video. So if you've watched my last video, I have absolutely no idea what happened. My only guess is that something happened during the conversion. So whenever I record a video, I then have to convert the video into MP4 so that YouTube can read it. And I have no idea what happened. I mean, that was what, episode 108. I have recorded exactly the same way every single time. And also that day I did 2 other videos for other series that I'm doing, and the sound was fine of those, so that leaves pretty much the conversion of that file. And I tested my recording prior to recording this, and everything sounded fine. I always sound, when I listen to myself, I always sound like I speak so slow and everything, and it bugs me a little bit. So that's kind of why I very rarely go back and listen to my recordings again, unless somebody points out that something is wrong. So thank you for pointing it out, by the way, and it should be fine unless something messes up in the conversion again. But I ran 2 different tests prior to recording, and it sounded just fine. So we'll see. Anyway, today we have a pretty long video ahead of us because there's still 10 games left to play in April. That's a lot more than usual. That was because that year there were Olympics. And then there's going to be the playoffs, and more than likely I'm going to make it far in the playoffs, so that's probably going to be a long video. So you might want to get yourself a sandwich, a coffee, something. You might be stuck with me for a while, assuming you're listening to the entire thing. Alright, so April starts with a game against the Washington Capitals. Now we still have a few injuries there, so Yashin is still out. Should be back right around when the playoffs are going to start, which is good because he had 88 points in 66 games, so definitely was a pillar of our offense there. Osa might actually be coming back sometime during the playoffs, and Sheldon Surrey is playing hurt, so that's pretty much what's going on with that. So Washington is 30-39-3, which is good for 14th in the East, and we are 3-0 against the Caps this year. Let's see if we can be perfect against them still. And we are playing at home. So Tuukka Rask is in net for Washington. Remember, they made that trade with Toronto with Gonchar going the other way. That was pretty much the 2 biggest pieces. And Ryan Miller is going to be in net for us. And we start with a 5-1 win. Pretty good start for the Suns. So we outshot Washington 36-24. Zdeno Chara was the first star of the game. He had an assist. Patrick Elias was the second star with 2 assists. And Matt Cullen was the third star with a goal. 17,187 people in attendance for this game. So Washington took a 1-0 lead into the first period, and after that it was all us. So in the second period, Dmitry Kalinin scored short-handed from Pavel Datsyuk and Zdeno Chara, and then Joe Thornton scored on the power play from Jason Spezza and Patrick Elias. 2-1 Sens after 2. Then we scored 3 more goals in the third period. Anton Volchenkov from Martin Avlat and Mark Streit, and then Matt Cullen from Chris Phillips and Chris Kelly. And finally Daniel Alfredson from Patrick Elias. 5-1 is the final score. Jason Spezza extends his point streak to 14 games with his assist in that game, and that was 8 straight games with an assist for him. So of course, as we know, Jason Spezza is pretty much in beast mode in this playthrough. And so Joel Ward and Philip Novak are available on waivers. Oh, it's Jason Ward, not Joel Ward. I guess maybe a little bit too early for Joel Ward. So Jason Ward and Philip Novak. Great night for Pavel Dimitrov, who had 4 assists against the Thrashers. Pretty good. Peter Nordstrom in Chicago is suspended. He's going to miss 5 games. A night to remember for Mikko Iloranta, who had 4 goals and an assist against the Florida Panthers. That's a pretty good game. Yanni Ninima is back from suspension in St. Louis. And Eugene Melnick is very happy with my work because I went perfect in March, 15-0. So he better be happy. Paul Carria's point streak ended at 12 games, did not get a point against the Canucks. Chad Kilger extends his assist streak to 8 games, so in that same game against Vancouver he had an assist. Alright, and we are about to face the Atlanta Thrashers at home, so Atlanta is 43, 26, and 4, which is good for 3rd in the East. They are at top of their division. And we are 3-0 against the Thrashers. If I remember correctly, we won 3-2 every single game. I might be wrong, though. We're about to find out. Yep, I won all of the games 3-2, so the Thrashers are playing us pretty tight. Kari Lehtonen is going to be in net for the Thrashers, and we are going back to Ryan Miller, of course. And we won again 3-1, so almost disappointing that it wasn't 3-2. We outshot the Thrashers 54-16. Patrick Elias was the first star. He had a goal and an assist. Jere Lehtonen, playing for Atlanta, was the second star with a goal. And Brian McCabe was the third star with an assist. 16,230 people in attendance for that game. Nobody scored in the first period. And then Jere Lehtonen gave a 1-0 lead to the Thrashers in the second. So we were trailing by 1 going into the third period, but then we scored 3 goals. Brooks Laich scored his 10th from Patrick Elias, then Patrick Elias from Brian McCabe and Daniel Alfredson. Jason Spezza scored his 55th from Anton Volchenkov and Joe Thornton, made it 3-1, and nobody else would score, and 3-1 is how we won. Jason Spezza extends his point streak to 15 games with his goal. But his assist streak ended at 8 games because he did not get an assist in that one. He only got the 1 goal. And now Michael Ryder is hurt. How long are you hurt for, buddy? Day to day with a bruised thumb. That's okay. You can be replaced in the lineup by either Chris Neal or Denis Arkhipov. Marcus Nilsson is available on the waivers. Oh wow, he dropped fast. So Marcus Nilsson is already an alpha star talent at 28. Good game for Matthias Timander in Carolina. He had a hat-trick, 3 goals against the Washington Capitals. So Lindy Ruff might lose his job as the coach for the Phoenix Coyotes. They are struggling. They are 28, 42, and 5. That's the second time I think we've seen a message about him potentially losing his job. I always liked Lindy Ruff as a coach. I thought that those Buffalo teams that he coached were really well coached. They didn't have the most talent. I mean, they had good players, but they never had like a bunch of superstars while he was there. But they were always pretty competitive. They just couldn't pull it off in the playoffs. But they were competitive back then, and it's been pretty rough since then. And I'm not trying to, no pun intended by saying that it's been rough, and Lindy Ruff is not there anymore, but yeah. Chad Kilger's assist streak ended at 8 games, no points against the Kings. Derek McKenzie in Montreal got suspended. He's going to miss 4 games. And Alexei Yashin started to skate. That is good news. Alright, so now we are hitting the road. We are in Buffalo to play the Sabres. Buffalo is 32, 36, and 7. That's good for 12th in the East. It looks more and more... Oh yeah, that's probably not going to. Playoffs are definitely probably not gonna happen. They would need to win every single ones of their games with everybody else losing. Yeah, that's not happening. So Buffalo won't be in the playoffs. We are 5-1 against Buffalo, one of the very rare teams to have beaten us in regulation this year. Ryan Miller is in net for us. Tim Thomas, yet again, trying to beat us, his former team. But we won 4-1. So we outshot the Sabres 45-28. Brooks Laich was the first star. He had a goal and an assist. Patrick Elias was the second star with a goal. And Chris Kelly was the third star with a goal and an assist. So Buffalo scored first in the first period, but then Chris Phillips scored short-handed from Pavel Datsyuk to tie the game at 1. And then in the second period, we had Patrick Elias score from Brooks Laich, so it was 2-1 Sens after 2. And then in the third period, Brooks Laich scored from Chris Kelly and Anton Volchenkov, and Chris Kelly scored on the power play in an empty net from Joe Thornton and Jason Spezza. 4-1 was the final score. And Jason Spezza extends his point streak to 16 games with that assist that he got. Nice little streak for Mr. Spezza. Martin Straka has played in 1,000 games in his career. Didn't get a point. That happened against Chicago. So 33 years old Martin Straka, still 3-star player. Pat Kavanagh is back from suspension in Carolina. And now we are going to be playing against our rivals, the Montreal Canadiens. So Montreal is 43-29-3. That's a pretty good record. That's good for 4th in the East. We are 6-0 against the Habs this year, and believe it or not, we are playing them one more time. So we are playing the Habs 8 times. Oh, Carey Price is in net for Montreal, so that might be why they got rid of Dwayne Roloson. So Carey Price in net for Montreal, Brian Elliott in net for us. And we won 6-4. So we outshot Montreal 44-26. Jason Spezza was the first star of the game. He had a hat-trick, 3 goals. Matthew Schneider for Montreal was the second star with 2 assists. And Zdeno Chara was the third star with a goal and an assist. 17,407 people in attendance for that game in Ottawa. So we opened up the scoring in the first period. It was Jason Spezza on the power play from Brian McCabe and Daniel Alfredson, and then Jason Spezza again on the power play again from Joe Thornton and Chris Kelly, and then Patrick Elias from Zdeno Chara and Daniel Alfredson. It was 3-0 Sens after 1. Then in the second period, Montreal scored, made it 3-1. And then there's been quite a few goals in the third period. So Chris Kelly scored from Anton Volchenkov, then Montreal scored, then Jason Spezza completed his hat-trick from Pavel Datsyuk and Joe Thornton, then Zdeno Chara from Chris Phillips and Brooks Laich. It was 6-2 at that point. Then Montreal scored 2 goals, made it 6-4, but we would manage to hold on to the lead until the end of the game. So the red light stays on for Jason Spezza, who had a hat-trick, as we saw. And that's 17 straight games with a point for him. Alright, Glenn Murray has recorded 1,000 games played with Boston. Didn't get a point. He got that against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So Glenn Murray, 33 years old, 2.5-star talent still, so pretty decent player. David Ling in Anaheim is suspended. He's going to miss 7 games. No additional missed time for Dallas Trevor Daley, who avoided being suspended. Jeff Gorton might be out as the Wild GM, so they're not doing too good over there. They are 27-45-5. Andy Roach extends his assist streak to 8 games. He had a goal and an assist against Nashville. So Roach playing in St. Louis. And we're about to play the Sabres again. So Lawrence Nicollet is suspended in Minnesota. He's going to miss one game. Alright, so about to play the Sabres again. They haven't gotten much better than last time we played them. 32, 38, and 7. They are 12th in the East and officially eliminated from the playoffs. We are 6-1 against Buffalo. Dominic Hasek in net for Buffalo. We are going with Ryan Miller. They tried Tim Thomas so often and it didn't work, so sending the Dominator instead. And we won 4-0. Alright, so we outshot the Sabres 53-15. Joe Thornton was the first star. He had 2 assists. Jason Spezza was the second star with a goal and an assist. Patrick Elias was the third star with 2 assists. 17,136 people in attendance for this game. So in the first period, we opened up the scoring with Mark Streit on the power play from Patrick Elias and Joe Thornton. Then in the second period, Zdeno Chara scored from Daniel Alfredson, and then Spezza scored from Pavel Datsyuk and Joe Thornton, 3-0 Sens after 2. Then in the third, it was Chris Kelly from Jason Spezza and Patrick Elias, and 4-0 was the final score. Jason Spezza extends his point streak to 18 with his goal and assist in that game against Buffalo. Alright, Matthias Timander is suspended in Carolina. And he's going to miss 3 games. Brendan Shannon has scored 500 goals in his career with a goal and an assist against Colorado. Andy Roach's assist streak ended at 8 games. He did get a goal, too, in that game, but that was it. Mike Camilleri extends his goal streak to 5 games. He had a goal against Anaheim. And Michael Ryder might be coming back soon. So Eric Kearns and Matthew Lombardi are available on waivers. I'm not going to pick them up. Joel Quenneville might get fired in Minnesota. As we just saw, they are struggling over there. Their record is not good, so he might lose his job. So they might fire the GM and the coach. Lawrence Nicollet is back in the lineup after serving his suspension. Jay Boomister has a great game. He had 4 assists against Tampa Bay. And we are about to play in Montreal against the Habs. They are now 44-30-3, still 4th in the East. We are 7-0 against Montreal, and we obviously want a perfect 8-0 record against them. So Ryan Miller in net for us, Patrick Roy in net for Montreal. Oh, we lost in overtime, 5-4. Such a disappointment. So we outshot Montreal 53-21 in that game. Andrei Markov was the first star of the game. He had 2 assists. Jason Spezza was the second star with a goal and 2 assists. And Sean Avery was the third star with 2 assists. So lots of scoring in the first period. So Jason Spezza opened up the scoring. It was his 60th goal of the season from Zdeno Chara and Joe Thornton. Then Montreal scored twice. So it was 2-1. Then Joe Thornton scored on the power play from Jason Spezza. It was tied at 2. Montreal scored. Then Pavel Datsyuk scored his 25th from Patrick Elias. It was tied at 3 after 1. Then in the second period, Montreal scored. It was 4-3. And then in the third period, Brooks Laich scored with 1:14 to go in the third period from Jason Spezza and Joe Thornton. It was tied at 4. And then nobody would score in overtime, and then only one person scored in the shootout, and it was Matthew Schneider. Alright, Matthew Schneider plays the hero. Jason Spezza extends his point streak to 19 games in that game with his goal and 2 assists. And now we are going back home to play against Boston. We've played Montreal a couple times already. So I got confused. Michael Ryder is about to be back and healthy. Alright, so playing the Bruins. So the Bruins are still fighting for a playoff spot. They are 41-37-1. They are 9th in the East, 2 points behind the Leafs, but they have played 2 more games. And of course, playing us is more than likely not going to help them. So we're playing at home against Boston. We are 7-0 against them this season. Thomas Vokoun is going to be in net for Boston. We are going to Brian Elliott. And we won 5-2. So we outshot Boston 49-27. Martin Havlat was the first star with a goal and an assist. Sheldon Surrey was the second star with 2 assists. And Jason Spezza was the third star with a goal and an assist. 16,583 people in attendance for that game. So Matt Collins opened up the scoring in the first, short-handed from Pavel Datsyuk and Sheldon Surrey. Then Boston scored, and then we scored again. It was Anton Volchenkov from Patrick Eaves and Chris Kelly. So 2-1 Sens after 1. Then in the second period, Jason Spezza scored from Joe Thornton and Martin Havlat. 3-1 Sens after 2. Then at the start of the third period, Boston came within 1 with a goal, but then we scored again. Joe Thornton on the power play from Jason Spezza, and then Martin Havlat from Sheldon Surrey and Mike Fisher. 5-2 was the final score. Chris Neal improves at center. And Jason Spezza extends his point streak to 20 games with a goal and an assist in that one. Alright, 3 games left to the regular season. Nico Kapanen has a good game. He had a hat-trick, 3 goals against Columbus. Suspension over from Peter Nordstrom in Chicago, back in the lineup. Vernon Filler is suspended in Nashville. He's going to miss 7 games. No missed time for Atlanta's Daniel Corso. So no suspension for him. And then Michael Ryder is coming back to the lineup. Alright, Maxim Afinogenov has a strong game. He had 4 assists against Montreal. Speaking of Montreal, Derek McKenzie is back from suspension. And we are about to play at home against the Florida Panthers. So Florida is 31-44-4, which is good for last in the East. And we are 3-0 against the Panthers this year. And we won 5-1. Sorry, it was Roman Turek in net for Florida and Ryan Metter in net for us. Actually, I don't think it's Roman Turek that started in net for them. It was Pasi Nurminen. No, it was Turek that started. Nurminen finished the game. Sorry. Alright, so we outshot the Panthers 57-11. Anton Volchenkov was the first star of the game. He had a goal and an assist. Jason Spezza was the second star with 2 assists. And Brooks Laich was the third star with a goal and an assist. 15,088 people in attendance for that game. And we took a 4-0 lead into the first period. So Brooks Laich scored from Patrick Elias and Jason Spezza. Then Michael Ryder scored his 20th on the power play from Brian McCabe and Jason Spezza. Martin Havlat scored on the power play from Matt Cullen. And then finally Mike Fisher scored short-handed from Daniel Fredson and Anton Volchenkov. 4-0 was the score after the first period. Then in the second period, Anton Volchenkov scored his 10th from Patrick Elias and Brooks Laich to make it 5-0 Sens. And then David Booth scored his first to prevent Ryan Metter from getting a shutout. And Datsyuk is day-to-day for about a week with a forearm tendon laceration. And Jason Spezza extended his point streak to 21 games. All right, Todd Reardon in Atlanta is suspended. He's going to miss 6 games. No suspension for Washington's Steve Eminger, so he stays in the lineup. All right, so I suppose that Lindy Ruff is gone from being the head coach in Phoenix, and he is replaced by Mike Babcock. So Mike Babcock is going to be the new coach in Phoenix. No further action needed for San Jose's Travis Roach, so no suspension for him. Alright, and now we are going to be playing against the Toronto Maple Leafs. In Toronto, Toronto is 40, 32, and 7. That's good for 8 in the East. And at this rate, it's going to be the team we're going to face in the first round. We are 7-0 against the Leafs this year. Let's see if we can beat them in Toronto. Ryan Miller in net for the Sens. Ty Conklin in net for Toronto. And we won 6-3. We outshot Toronto 35-20. Patrick Elias was the first star of the game. He had a hat trick. Jason Spezza was the second star with a goal and 4 assists. And Brian McCabe was the third star with 2 assists. We opened up the scoring in the first. Martin Avlat scored from Matt Cullen and Brian McCabe. And then Patrick Elias scored on the power play from Jason Spezza. It was 2-0 Sens after 1. And in the second period, Toronto scored, then we scored. It was Patrick Elias, 25th, on the power play from Jason Spezza and Joe Thornton. And then Toronto scored, made it 3-2. We would go into the third period ahead by 1. Chris Phillips scored on the power play from Jason Spezza to make it 4-2. Toronto scored, made it 4-3. Then Jason Spezza scored on the power play from Michael Ryder, and then Patrick Elias from Jason Spezza and Brian McCabe completed Elias's hat trick, and 6-3 was the final score. There was no stopping Patrick Elias, who had a hat trick, as we saw. A night to remember for Jason Spezza, who had a goal and 4 assists, and that was 22 straight games for him with a point. And finally, we are going to be playing the last game of the season at Madison Square Garden in a few days. There was no stopping Alexander Korolyuk with the Rangers. He had 3 goals and 2 assists against the Flyers. In that same game, Alexei Kovalev had a hat trick. And Matthias Timander is back from suspension in Carolina. Brian Campbell has a strong game for Buffalo. He had 4 goals against Toronto. Pretty good game. Sergei Gonchar extends his assist streak to 8 games with a goal and an assist in that game against Buffalo. So pretty good for him too. Oh, that's going to hurt the Stars. I don't know if they're going to be in the playoffs or not, but Jerome McGinley is out for 6 months. What did he get? A fractured larynx. Yikes. Geoffrey Lupul is not suspended. And neither is Alex Ovechkin. Alright, Alexei Yashin is ready to resume practice. That means he's going to be back soonish. Oops. Alright, so I clicked a little fast there. I didn't see the Rangers record. They are 40, 38, and 3, and we are 3-0 against the Rangers this year. Ryan Miller is going to be in net for us. Henrik Lundqvist in net for the Rangers. And we won 41. So we outshot the Rangers 46-31. Jason Spezza was the first star of the game. He had a goal and 2 assists. Joe Thornton was the second star. He had a goal and an assist. And Michael Ryder was the third star with 2 assists. Let's see here. Joe Thornton opened up the scoring in the first period on the power play from Michael Ryder and Jason Spezza. Then Zdeno Chara scored his 10th from Jason Spezza and Brooks Lake. Matt Cullen scored on the power play from Brian McCabe and Daniel Alfredson, so it was 3-0 at that point, and then Brian Leach scored for the Rangers, made it 3-1 after one. Then nobody scored in the second period, and in the third period, Jason Spezza scored on the power play from Michael Ryder and Joe Thornton, and 4-1 was the final score of the final regulation game. And that was 23 straight games with a point for Jason Spezza. Alright, so... Oh, that's a lot of news. So Drew Stafford is suspended in Buffalo. He's going to miss 7 games. Chris Thorburn in Dallas is also suspended. He's going to miss 4 games. Memorable night for Bill Guerin, who had 3 goals and an assist against Dallas. So former Ottawa Senator Bill Guerin. Jay Boumister has a great game as well. He had 4 assists against Atlanta. Christian Uzelius has a memorable game. In that same game, he had 3 goals and an assist. Ted Nolan might lose his job soon. The Islanders went 36-44-2, so Ted Nolan might lose his job. Zygmunt Puffy had a good game. He had a hat-trick, 3 goals and an assist against the Flyers. Open ice leads to productive night for Victor Hubel with the Islanders. In that same game, he had 4 assists. Peter Bundra has achieved 500 assists in his career. He had an assist against Tampa Bay. 38-year-old Peter Bundra with 2.5 star players. So passes on point for Sidney Crosby, who had 4 assists against Toronto. Sergei Gonchar's assist streak ended at 8 games in that game, was held scoreless. And Yashin might be back soon, which is great because we are about to start the playoffs. Right, Pavel Datsyuk might be back soon, and so is Alexei Yashin. Alright, so we have the nominees for the trophies. So, for the art, we have Jagger, Lidstrom, and Petrus Bergeron. For the Vezina, we have Chris Osgood, Ed Belfour, and Ryan Meller of the Ottawa Senators. The Norris is going to be between Chris Chelios, Nick Lidstrom, and Zdeno Chara. Rene Chara had 43 points, but he's plus 77, I guess. The Calder is going to be between Chris Campoli, Ryan Whitney, and Sidney Crosby. I wonder who's going to win that. Probably Chris Campoli. He did get 55 points. Well, that's actually pretty good. He had 55 points in his rookie season, but yeah, Ryan Whitney had 66 points in his rookie season, and Sidney Crosby had 141 points in his rookie season. GM of the Year is going to be between Craig Patrick, Glenn Saylor, and Mike Keenan. I get absolutely no respect for that category. I am never nominated. The Selkie is going to be between Chris Kelly, Joe Pavelski, and Marcel Gotch. Lady Bing between Boyd Devereaux, Mark Streit, and Martin St. Louis. Mark Messier Leadership Award between Mike Modano, Nick Lidstrom, and Trevor Linden. The Ted Lindsay between Jagger, Lidstrom, and Petrus Bergeron. The Jack Adams between Alain Vigneault, Jacques Demers, and Mike O'Connell. Pavel Datsyuk is almost ready. Alexei Yashin says that he's ready to play. Yes, he is. Alright, come back to the lineup. Welcome back, Captain. Denis Arkhipov goes back to Binghamton. Alright, and we are going to be facing Toronto in the first round. Pavel Datsyuk is back to full strength. That's good. Alright, so we're going to be pretty healthy for the first round against the Maple Leafs. So we're going to look at the playoff 3. Alright, so in the West, it's going to be St. Louis against Edmonton, the LA Kings against the Detroit Red Wings, the Avalanche against the Sharks, and the Predators against the Blackhawks. And in the East, it's going to be Toronto against us, New Jersey is going to face Pittsburgh, Philadelphia is going to be against Atlanta, and Carolina is going to be against Montreal. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do something that I usually don't do. So usually I do April and the playoffs together. If I do that, that's going to be a really long video. I kind of want to make sure that my sound is not going to be all messed up again. So I kind of want to have some time to work on a couple different things in case that happens. Also, dinner's about to be ready. So it was a little bit long. There were a lot of games and everything. So the next video is going to be just the playoffs. I might take a little bit more of my time during the playoffs, take a look at the other games and everything, to try to make it a video that's not going to be 20 minutes, but we'll see. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and stop here. So I usually don't do that. I hope you understand. I hope you're not going to be too disappointed. But yeah, we are going to be facing the Leafs in the first round. And let's go ahead and take a look at the league leaders, see if Jason Spezza finished first in points. He did, 151 points. That's 10 more than Sidney Crosby. And then Jagger, Stahl, Le Cavalier, Dimitra, Carter, Forsberg, Smith, Richards, Kovalchuk, and Ray Whitney. All above 100 points. Alright, so that's pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and save my game. So next time we're going to go ahead and do the playoffs. I'm going to double check the recording after it's converted to make sure the sound is fine. And I do want to thank you for tuning in, and if you've liked the video, feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment, all of that good stuff. And until I roll this game again, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.